today is. My questions relate to the amendments to the Fair Work Registered Organisations Act 2009 this year, which enabled the construction and general division of the CFMEU to be put into administration on 23rd of August. Under Section 323HA of the Act, I'll put the questions to the Minister, but Department can help. How many complaints has the Administrator received regarding the actions of members of the CFMEU?
Senator, I don't think we would have awareness of that. The Administrator is the custodian of that information, and as the Minister noted earlier, it is very important that, although numbers doesn't compromise anyone's protections or anonymity, but it is very important that other parties, such as the Department or the Minister, isn't aware of details. So I think we'd say we're not familiar. We don't have that information about how many complaints have been provided. It might be that the Fair Work Commission is in a position tonight.
I'm not sure if I'll have it. The only other thing I'd add, Senator, is that under the Act, I think it's Section 323T, uppercase T, the Administrator is required to provide a report no later than 6 months after the commencement of the Act, and the legislation requires the Minister to table that report in Parliament. So that's the type of information at a non-identified level, as the Secretary said, I would imagine would be in that, but we don't know the answer to that question.
No, I appreciate that.
So the Fair Work Commission is on it for 20
in the afternoon. I'm aware.
Senator, I might also say that noting that the Administrator is distinct from the Fair Work Commission as well, the Fair Work Commission and the Fair Work Ombudsman did, prior to the administration being established, they also set up dedicated channels for people to provide information and make complaints about conduct in relation to this matter. So while they may not be able to go to your question about what the Administrator is a custodian of, they may well be able to go to the subject matter of prior to that point, and indeed their own channels, I think, are still open, because, of course, the person may well wish to make a formal complaint about provisions of the Act that the Fair Work Ombudsman and or the Fair Work Commission are responsible for enforcing.
Yep, no, I understand.
The officials are right. I don't think we have that detail. What I do know is that around 12 former officials of the CFMEU Construction Division had their employment terminated. I think technically that was by the Administrator, the termination. And several more have been suspended as a result of allegations made against them.
We'll come to that, but in terms of the complaints made, I understand that the 6-month report is going to be released, but if the Minister or the Department can take it on notice to provide how many complaints the Administrator has received thus far. How many investigations have been initiated by the Administrator based on these complaints? I guess that would also be taken on notice.
We the Department don't know, so.
But for the Minister to look into?
Happy to take it on notice. There will be some information that we simply don't have, because remember, the Administrator is completely independent of government. They're not a government body. But the other thing I was going to say, when the Fair Work Ombudsman appears today, I think they've already put it in the public domain that they have around low 40s, 41, 42 investigations now underway involving the CFMEU, but they'd be able to provide you some more detail about that. Because depending on the nature of the complaint, some might need to be referred to the police, some to the Fair Work Ombudsman, some to other authorities.
So I can ask the Fair Work Ombudsman later?
You could certainly ask them about what investigations they have underway.
Sure.
So, Senator, Section 323H(a), which sets out the complaints procedure, also envisages that complaints received by the Administrator may be more properly investigated by other agencies. As the Minister indicated, that could be the Federal Police or State or Territory Police. That could also be the Fair Work Ombudsman. It could also be the General Manager of the Fair Work Commission in his role as regulator of registered organisations. There may be other bodies as well, the ACCC, for example. The process set up in there broadly allows for the referral of those complaints and for a report back to be provided to the Administrator. However, as the Minister and the Secretary have averted to, the Administrator is independent of government. The Administrator is running the union and is regulated as such by the General Manager of the Fair Work Commission in his capacity as regulator of registered organisations. Also, the Fair Work Ombudsman has a role as regulator in that space, but the department's role and oversight is limited to the Minister receiving that report from the Administrator and then assisting the Minister to table that in Parliament.
Okay. Because earlier we made the decision to just ask questions, and again, that will be decided by the committee and the Minister taking, the PII claim on notice. How many findings of corruption or criminality have been found since the administration began months ago? Again, you can take that on notice.
Yeah, I think we would, simply because we don't have that information, and we'll obviously consider whether it's appropriate to answer that or not.
Well, I think it would be in the public interest, Minister, for us to find out. So much money has been spent to set up this administration. We need to see that results have come out of it. Can you remind us how much of members' hard-earned money is being spent to run this administration?
Again, we don't have that information. Happy to take that on notice.
Surely it would be in the millions, right?
I'm not sure why you'd be saying that, and I don't know that. So happy to take it on notice. I'd make the point that I made before, that already the Administrator has recovered around $3.5 million of members' hard-earned funds, most of which was...
Well, we're talking about how much is being spent to set up the administration.
Sure.
And I am poor on time, Minister, so we'll have to go to the other questions.
I just thought you might like to hear about the funds, the members' hard-earned funds that has been recovered by the Administrator, which was inappropriately paid to lawyers to defend a couple of those officials. But if you don't want to know that, that's okay.
We're totally across that one. I'm only asking questions I don't know the answers to.
The only thing I'd add to that, noting Ms Godden's earlier comments that whether or not the scheme amounts to an acquisition of property of the CFMEU is something at issue in the litigation, is that the legislative framework empowers the General Manager of the Fair Work Commission, who will be here later, to set the remuneration of the Administrator.
Yep.
That's true.
Thank you. Yep, definitely will ask these questions and put it to the FWO. Minister, are you aware of the circumstances around the Deputy Administrator in Victoria, Graham McCulloch's removal 3 weeks after commencing in his role?
I'm aware that he was removed or resigned. I can't remember which it was.
I've got a copy of an article in The Australian on the 13th of September, and it was reported that there were, and I quote, allegations of staff complaints surrounding the Deputy Administrator's removal. Are you aware of this in particular?
I'm aware of that report, yeah.
Are there any ongoing investigations regarding any complaints made about the Deputy Administrator's conduct?
I'd have to take that on notice. And
I've also got another article from The Age that reported, and I quote, McCulloch had used inappropriate language to women in work contexts since his appointment, end quote. And further to this, I've heard reports that McCulloch was touching female staff inappropriately, as well as inviting his female staff to drinks late at night. Are you aware of this?
I'm aware those allegations have been made, yeah. And as you've pointed out, the Administrator, it's been reported that the Administrator, on learning of these allegations, took immediate action, and Mr McCulloch resigned hours later.
So, to use your words, Minister, the purpose of this administration was to deal with alleged intimidation, bullying and inappropriate behaviour, yet this administration has caused more of this behaviour through their hand-picked candidate for Deputy Administrator. Am I mistaken, or has this administration failed to achieve its goals?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the purpose of the administration for the reasons we went into earlier. But my view generally is The administrator and his team are doing an excellent job under very trying circumstances.
Well, it doesn't look like he is
Well,
when
that
there's
might be your
inappropriate
view, but
conduct.
that might
It's what's out there, Minister, and there's a reason why this person has resigned. We just need to make sure measures are put in place so this doesn't happen again.
Sure. And I don't know if those allegations are true, then I'd point again to the fact that the administrator dealt with them promptly, as he should.
Well, again, making sure it doesn't happen again. In August, the Attorney-General sacked 270 unpaid officials and 11 paid office holders of the CFMEU. Minister, on what basis did the AG make the decision to sack these officials in August?
I'll take that on notice again because it's relevant to the issues before the court.
No worries. Was the sacking of these officials in accordance with the natural justice hearing rule, including fair process and a right of reply?
Again, I'll take that on notice.
It was reported in August that John Setka claimed to have been betrayed by the government after striking a deal to step down in return for the government not putting the CFMEU under administration. Are you aware of any discussions or consultation that occurred between Minister Burke or his office and representatives of the CFMEU?
Not only am I not aware of that, but it is an absurd proposition. There was no deal. I know Mr Setka has made that claim. I'll leave it for other people to decide whether they believe Mr Setka. And Minister Burke made clear at the time that Mr Setka is talking about is that his resignation was welcome, but that much more needed to be done to clean up the union.
So there were no undertakings made to the union?
No.
If so, are you saying that Minister Burke has given you assurances that no discussions have taken place?
Yes, and I'd also say that John Setka says many things.
Because Minister Burke has repeatedly refused requests for comment on this matter. So surely if there was no consultation, he would come out and deny it as you have.
Well, Mr Burke's a busy man and he can decide for himself what he says.
Again,
he's no longer he's no longer the minister.
I understand.
I'm the minister who's responding to all of these issues.
But this happened while he was minister, and so I would assume that those conversations or any consultation that he had would have been conveyed to you as now the current minister.
And I've already answered your question.
And Senator, if we go too much further down this line, we're going to have concerns about getting to issues which are really at the heart of the litigation, including why the scheme was put into place and any alternatives to that.
Minister,
So I guess you've gone a bit over the time allocated, but you've got.
I'll stay because I've got heaps more questions.
That's right.
So, how much more time do I have before I start a new set of questions?
Well, probably better off just explain to me how long. You've just got a couple of minutes to finish off on this.
Yeah, and then we can rotate
and then
people.
I'll rotate. Yeah.
Fantastic, Minister. Some have characterised that. And I put to you as the question, is this an act of revenge against the CFMEU for their positions against the government on matters like silica dust, housing affordability and Palestine?
I'd like to answer that question. I'll just check whether I can.
Senator, unfortunately the reasons for placing the CFMEU into administration are really at the heart of what is before the High Court. I think the Minister could probably point to legislation that's been enacted in this term of government, given that is squarely on the public record and is a matter of fact.
Thank you for your guidance, Ms.
Well,
Goddard.
okay, so thank you. I would point to the fact that this government is the first government in Australia, and I think we may even be world leading in some respects when it comes to silica protections. I'd also point to the incredible investment from this government in housing affordability, which we really appreciate support from the crossbench on.
That wasn't my question, Minister.
No, but we should be honest about where we're voting on things, shouldn't we? And what we're prepared to vote for and what we're not prepared to vote for.
No, I understand.
I'll leave it.
Not about.
I'll leave it for others to decide whether they believe the people who are providing information to you.
Is this an act of revenge?
Well, given the advice from the lawyers, I will leave it to others to decide whether they believe...
So as Minister, you can't comment on that.
Well, I can't comment on the reasons for the administration.
There was a lengthy question that was asked. The Minister should be allowed to answer the question.
Yeah.
Minister.
I can't comment on the reasons for the administration, for reasons that have been explained, but for what those people are telling you to be true, would fly in the face of this government's action on things like silica, housing affordability and the other issues you mentioned.
I think there are many working men and women out there who want answers. So looking forward to the questions you've taken on notice, and we can share the call. Thanks, Chair.
Good, thanks. Senator Cash.